everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cafecito. I'm your host, Christiana. You all know the tagline. The Cafecito is about everyday people doing extraordinary things, and today is no different. I'm excited to bring yet another extraordinary person to you today. But before we get into that, just a shout out to our sponsor, We The Plug. We The Plug is an online platform that brings early stage founders from ideation stage all the way to first seed round funding. There is also an opportunity for those that are in the business sector. If you are interested in learning more about the startup space because you're looking to be a workingpreneur, where you're working your 9 to 5, but also building your business on the side, definitely check us out. And then also those that are in the investment sector that are looking to connect with more people of color in the startup space, definitely reach out to us. You can find out more on our website at wetheplug.com. So today, you guys, I'm excited because I met this young man on, I think it was Latinx Fest. Latinx Fest, if you guys haven't heard about it, it's a organization that amplifies the voice and presence of Latinos in the startup space, in the business sector, in just doing amazing things, okay? So it's called LTX. So it's a play off of Latinx to be inclusive of everyone in that space. And I met him there and I just thought he was so amazing. And so we're gonna get into his story in a little bit, but to learn more about Latinx Fest, Google LTX Fest and you'll find it. If not, I'll put the link below. All right, so hello, Josh, welcome.
Hello. I'm good, how are you? So nice to be here.
I'm happy to have you here as well. I was complimenting before we got started, the tree in the background is beautiful. Do you want to give a shout out to the amazing artiste that put that tree together?
Definitely shout out to my mom. Completely transforms the house every season. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. Mom, you did a fantastic job. The color scheme is beautiful and it's just a nice touch in the background there. So Josh, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
So my name is Joshua Delgadillo. I'm a junior in high school here in the Seattle metro area. And essentially, I've always had a big interest in computer science and AI. And so I took some initiative and I founded and currently run an AI-powered audio transcription company called WordBose.com. That's like WORDBOSE.com. And essentially what it is, you have a video file, you have a podcast, and you upload the file and it gets transcribed and emailed back to you, and you get just a nice text transcription that you can search, you can highlight, you can edit, you can download, find anything you want to find in it, and if you make an account, it gets saved and you can edit it and see all your transcripts.
Okay, so first of all, two things. One, I don't know if you all have noticed, but Josh is a little bit young, right? Josh, can you tell the people how old are you?
I'm 16. I will be turning 17 in 10 days.
In 10 days, he's turning 17. When did you come up with this idea for this company?
So it wasn't like something I've learned is that like ideas like this, it's not really like an aha moment kind of thing, it's not like I had some big epiphany. But my dad works for Amazon Web Services, so like the cloud has been like, cloud computing, everything has been like, I don't know, something I've thought about, something I've been interested in, something I've like read about, and something I found is just that there's all this demand for services that you wouldn't really think of, like transcription, translation, like remote desktops, and all this stuff is on the rise. And there's all these people there like begging for more services because there's not enough out there yet. And so obviously I went looking around like the AWS conference and I realized like you can get transcripts already for cheap, but all this like cloud computing stuff, if you're not like really into technology like I am, it can be really, really intimidating. Like you'll have no idea what to do and just give up. And so that's why what I wanted to do is I realized like, I know how to do this. Like I know how to use the APIs. And so what you can do is like repackage this and rebrand it for convenience so that like convenience so that you can access the market that's like already out there. Because there's so many people like wanting these services, but they're like intimidated because they think it's complicated, but really I can make it really easy for them. And so that just kind of evolved in like way I think people like might actually benefit from this if like, you know, I bring this service to them.
You know, one of the things that really stand out to me is that you're the perfect example of why age should never get in the way of anything. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. If you have an idea, you should move forward with executing it, to test it out, to see if it's a viable product, because you don't know if it's going to be valuable or not unless you test it out. But oftentimes we stop ourselves because we go, oh, no one's going to be interested, because who's going to listen to a kid, you know, or who's going to listen to somebody who, you know, is a certain age, whatever. And I appreciate you for not allowing any of those naysayers that may exist in your world or not to come in and change your mindset. I mean, when you came up with this idea, did you go to your parents and talk to them about it? Did you, like, what was the process of you building this out?
So I mean, I was very lucky to have like, you know, parents that were like super supportive of this. And, you know, like I'm into technology, Seattle's a big technology hub. So I've had like friends that are like, wow, you know, this is super cool. And so I definitely had a lot of positive encouragement. And as for building it, like I just, you know, I'm a big programmer, obviously. And I was just like, I just need to go like learn these skills and use these tools myself. And, you know, I can just build it myself essentially. And so one of the, I think things that helped me, you know, overcome that age barrier is I didn't have to like, you know, ask for like investment money. You know, I didn't need like a huge pile of startup money, which I know is like a big obstacle for a lot of other companies. But I think that's one of the like great benefits of like cloud or web-based companies is, you know, there's like a pretty small like initial capital investment needed. And so all I had to do essentially was invest in myself and go learn these skills and make sure that I could build it. And then after that, I figured it shouldn't matter if I was a kid, because like, first off, nobody needed to know, you know, it's just like a well-built website. And if I made it look professional, no one would be any the wiser as to who built it.
Right. I think that is really important to keep in mind, is the type of genre that you are focused on. So for you, you're a tech company, right? But you saw that there was a specific niche that you were going after. And to your point, it didn't require a large overhead to stand it up, which worked in your favor, because you're like, okay, I can just kind of do this on my own, just saving here and there. Or, I mean, did you even do like a friends and family type of round of raising?
I mean, I like, in the like initial stages, you know, we kind of like budgeted out like, you know, what the expenses would be, because you know, even with like something as small as a cloud business, there is some like upstart costs. Like the like monthly maintenance costs would be really small, but there was a little bit like upstart costs necessary. Like, you know, you needed to file for incorporation and like you need to pay for like a PO box, so I don't just use like my home's address. And so like that's kind of the stage where I was like, hey mom, hey dad, do you want to like help me with this, or should I, you know, like go out and fundraise? And thankfully enough, they were happy to provide, you know, once I had like a detailed outline of like exactly how much it would be, and, you know, my kind of financial plan. Well, like once they saw that I had everything like all organized, you know, I wasn't just jumping in at first, they were happy to help.
You know, and you said something really important right there. And I think this goes beyond just when you're asking someone to invest in you, but I think when you have an idea, something that you said that's really crucial, that you came to them with a plan that you had already spelled out. You had done a lot of the legwork to be able to present to them, like your pitch, right? You had to put together, you did your whole cost analysis, and you did your market research, so that when you went to them, it wasn't just, I have an idea and I don't know, but can you help me with it, which is fine to take that approach. And I think it's important to do what you did, which is, let me get as much knowledge under my belt as possible, so that when I go and take and present this to them, that they're more open to receiving and possibly helping to invest within me.
For sure. One of the things as you know, like if you want someone to help you with something, like you should make it as convenient for them as possible, because you know that'll give you the best chance of like them helping you out. So like I wanted to make sure that like there wasn't like a whole lot of uncertainty. Like it it's obviously this business isn't like, it's not my livelihood or anything. So I'm not like risking my whole life for it, but like it would be great if I could minimize the risk completely by doing all my research ahead of time. So yeah, that was kind of the thought process behind that.
So how long did it take you to build this before you were able to go to market with it?
So I think the sort of idea of like, hey, maybe some people would benefit from this started materializing like about a year ago. And then I think I was pretty busy with school. So like I just kind of like kept thinking about it, but I wasn't able to do anything. And then we have this thing called midwinter break, which starts like the week of President's Day, and we get that week off.
Okay.
So that like I found myself with some free time. Like, hey, why don't I like do a little bit of research, see how like from a technical aspect how I would go about doing this. And so after several hours every day of pouring through Amazon Web Services documentation, I finally got like a better idea of like how I would go about this. And what that break really did for me was I hadn't like started building yet, but I got past the crucial stage of like knowing enough to know what I needed to go learn. Because when like, I started out, I was like, I like I had no idea where to start, because I was happy to go like and put in the hours to learn anything, but I didn't know what I had to learn first. And so after that first week, I had gotten like a good plan of like exactly the technologies and the techniques that I would need to go learn for this. And then, so I let that kind of sit for like a month. And then I was again really busy with school. But then, coronavirus, global pandemic, school got canceled, and I all of a sudden found myself with quite a bit of time. I was like, well, after like, the initial week stage of complaining about like how horrible this all was, I decided I was lucky, and instead of complaining, I should go ahead and capitalize on the fact that I have a bunch of extra time on my hands, and that, I don't have to worry about so many of these things that other people have to worry about. So I decided to put a lot of time towards, reading tutorials, reading documentation, learning about the technologies I would have to use, learning full stack web development, back end, front end, learning how to interface with the transcription software, and then, like ideating, drawing up like diagrams of how I wanted the website to look, and things like that, coming up with a plan. So I think as far as learning the technologies, following tutorials, building sort of like a test application, just like using the basic technologies not yet relevant to what I was aiming to build, that probably took like 2 months, so maybe until like May or so. It's probably when I was finished with that, and then I was finally ready to start actually building WordBose. And then that there was obviously a big undertaking, lots of project management involved, because I had a lot of programming experience, but it was always just like fun little small projects, and I had never quite undertaken anything near as big. And so I wanted to make sure that I had like a good plan, a good timeline, so I wouldn't like get intimidated and like drop out halfway. I figured like I'd spent too much time thinking about this to like give up so easy, just because it was taking me a long time to build. And that was good foresight, because it took me a long time to build, and like ranging from like an hour to like 3 hours of programming, like most days. Eventually, I started rounding up into the end, put on the finishing touches, and I like circled on my calendar. I marked launch day as August 17th. And I managed to hold myself to that deadline, so WordBose went live on August 17th.
Yo, congratulations, because let me tell you, I know the challenge it is to, when it's a learning curve for you. I mean, that was definitely 2020 for me, because there were so many different projects that I had to take on that were more in the tech space, and my brain doesn't automatically work like that. So it was definitely a lot of time taken in understanding how to build certain things to make them operable. And it was trial and error. Some things would not work, some things would work. And I'm like, well, where did I go wrong?
That's programming.
What I appreciate about, yeah, what I appreciate about you is you were saying, you know, I had a timeline and I gave myself time to really learn. And I think that's something that I appreciate you saying, because it's not necessarily something that I did for myself, which is why I felt frustrated, because I didn't give myself that runway to really learn this new modality that I would need to then implement. I would then have to do, you need to learn it first, do it, and then if you're good enough, hopefully you can teach it to someone else. And what I hear you saying is that you took out time and you gave yourself time to really learn, understand, and grapple with how this was going to be built. And because you did all that, you were able to meet your timeline, which is like so rewarding to be able to.
Yeah, I learned a little bit about that just because I've had like a lot of programming experience. So, you know, I've known what happens when you don't make time for that. You know, like if you're building a project, you know, no one wants to like put down the time to like, oh, go read the documentation, because reading documentation is boring and everyone would rather like get straight into programming. But upon a little bit of self-reflection, I figured out that was a large reason why I had never finished a whole lot of programming projects, is because I wouldn't want to waste time, you know, reading documentation, learning beforehand, and I would just jump right in and then get frustrated because I didn't know how to do it and then finish. And so I figured that I should probably, you know, make a concerted effort to learn like the ins and outs of everything, and then the development process would go so much smoother.
Dude, right there, that's emotional intelligence, is recognizing, taking the time to study yourself, to understand why you don't complete a project. I mean, how many of us have experienced in our life where we have gotten to a certain point with whatever the situation is that we have in front of us, and we'll stop and not complete it and then move on. But for you to take out time to understand why you don't complete it and where it's connected to, and then go back and address that, so that then you won't continue having that same repetitious behavior. I think, like, dude, that is one of the biggest investments you can, listen, let me tell you something, you could like run a whole session on that alone. Because when you grow into adulthood, as you continue to mature and grow yourself in your career, you'll see how valuable that is, you know, in whatever facet you choose to go into. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because that, you all, listen, he's dropping nuggets at 16. And again, you know, I'm not a big proponent on hyper focusing on age, but it's important for me right now in this season that we're in to really acknowledge your generation, Gen Z. I think I'm obsessed with you all. Yeah, I ride for y'all all day, every day. I think you all are phenomenal. I know that you guys get a lot of backlash and you get a lot of criticism, and some of it is warranted, but I mean, my generation gets criticism too. But I think you all are one of the most, I think, hidden gems, because we have yet to see your full potential as you all are coming. I think you guys are still trying to figure out this whole COVID thing, and as it means for you with school and your social life, and God, you know, but I think you guys are handling it so well, and I applaud you. And that's another reason why I wanted to have you on here, and why I have highlighted your age several times, is because it's so important for us to acknowledge the contribution that you all have, the wisdom that you all have. So I just want to say.
Well, first off, thank you. You know, it's nice. It's refreshing to hear something positive about our generation. But you know, I think a lot of the criticism, and I would agree, some of it's warranted. It's just like a generational thing. You know, every generation has their own challenges, their own strengths, and their own weaknesses, and it's like on account of that, you know, sometimes, you know, the criticism happens, because it's difficult for one generation to understand another because they've just been shaped so differently by their experiences. But I mean, yes, I think overall I'm really hopeful in Gen Z. You know, I think COVID-19 especially is probably one of the like bigger challenges defining our generation. It's just been like such a unique and different, challenge than a lot of other generations. And I think that, or at least from what I've seen, I've trying to look, more at the positive. I've seen a lot of people, take great initiative and do a lot of great things to sort of, make the best of their circumstances. And I think that'll once we, come of age and go out into the world a little more, I think it'll, I think it'll increase our potential a lot. And I think we'll be seeing some great things.
I agree with you. Just to explore this a little bit, how are you processing through this whole COVID experience? I mean, you're a junior in high school, and so like you're coming up on your senior year and then college, but what college is going to look like, I don't know, but so much has changed in your life and in your age group. So much is dependent on that social interaction. So how are you managing to like stay positive and
So
focus?
trying to think back to like when school closed. It seems so long ago now. It's kind of weird, but
Because you all closed, you were like the epic center of all of this.
Yeah.
So when it hit for I'm in California, for us, closed down till March 13th. And I think you guys had already been experiencing shutdowns, right?
Some places had. We had been like exploring, but like schools were one of the things that were most reluctant to close. So I think school got like, initially they said, like, oh, 6-week break, we'll be back in like late April. And everyone's like, yay, 6-week break. But we closed in like, I think it was like March 18th or something. I think that was the last day we had of school. I probably got the date wrong, but sometime around then. And so it was like originally, a little bit of like just not quite grasping the gravity of the situation. It was just kind of like a fun break from school. I was concerned about AP tests because we would be coming back to school like a week before them, and that was a little bit problematic because I planned on doing really well on my AP tests. So I was concerned about that, but I didn't quite grasp the magnitude of it already in terms of how it was affecting other places, other countries, and I and none of my peers, I don't think, had any like semblance of imagination of what kind of thing would blow up to be. So those like first couple of weeks were honestly like kind of fun. I didn't have to worry about school. I didn't spend like every day hanging out with my friends because some people were concerned, and then other people just like not in the mood. But it was nice, like not have to worry about school. I could like focus on running, piano, other hobbies, and everything. And there was always like hope that we would go back, and so it didn't quite affect me yet. But then a couple of weeks after, I don't quite remember when, Washington Governor James, they made the announcement that like all schools would be closing for the rest of the year, and I think that's when like it started hitting, because I'd been enjoying my sophomore year, obviously. One of the things that had like hurt despite not grasping the situation entirely yet was the fact that I probably wasn't going to have a track season. I run cross country and track for my school. It's one of the things I enjoy most is running. And so it was like frustrating and sad to know like I wouldn't have one. But what I took from that was just like cross country and track are sports that require a lot of discipline, because it's like an individual and a team sport. You like race with your team, but your individual performance is only determined by you. And so if you don't put in the work in the off season, you don't run, rain, shine, dark 6 days a week, then it'll show. And the only person who'll have to blame for it is you. So it like requires a lot of discipline. And I think that's one of the things that helped me like keep training, regardless that I knew I wouldn't have a track season, just keep training anyway, hoping for the cross country season. Because it was hard to keep working without a goal. And I think that kind of mindset like translated to like working for other goals while having an uncertain future during COVID-19. Because it sucked, I was sad, and like I I lost a lot of motivation for a little while to like do school or to do like SAT prep, to, you know, continue playing piano, because no one knew what was going to happen. But then I like looked at how I was doing with running for an example, and I realized like regardless of what the situation turns out to be, I will be in a better position if I continue working. And so that's kind of the mindset that I followed. You know, I found myself with all this time, and I figured rather than like lament the circumstances, that this would be a great opportunity for me to get ahead. You know, like I understandably knew that like a lot of other people would not, you know, would not be in the mindset to, you know, continue doing things that they've been doing before. And I figured if I could, you know, take advantage of some of the benefits that quarantine had brought me, instead of just focusing on everything that it had taken away, then I could end up in a better position to take advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves once things got better, once things returned to like a little bit more normalcy. And so I basically just thought, you know, keep doing what you're doing. I know it's uncertain, I know it's hard, but regardless of what the situation in the end turns out to be, you'll be all the better for it if you keep going. And so just that kind of allowed me to like distract myself a little bit from like all the hardship, all the sadness, and you know, I just kept pushing on.
You know, as you're talking, I'm just like in awe of how you really set out to make a plan for yourself, that you recognize that, and to your point, coming from that athletic background was really helpful in creating that for you. And I mean, I hope you all are listening to this, because he's given such great tips on how to help yourself stay in alignment when so much around you is chaotic, because we can't control that. I mean, it's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed. It's like, yo, I'm losing it right now. Like, what do I do? But I like how you knew first and foremost, you had to create a routine for yourself in order to keep yourself grounded or rooted. And then from there, you made sure that the routine you had was one that impacted different levels of your skill set or your, you know, your talent or whatever, so that you would not get bored or complacent. And if you did, then you had something close by that you could implement in there to help keep you moving, as opposed to, I don't have nothing, I'm just gonna stop, I'm stuck. And then you could, you know, fail or fall short, however you want to put it.
Yeah, it's just, I figured like the circumstances were bad, obviously, and I was for one lucky that I didn't have to worry about anything. Like, first of all, I never got COVID-19, and so I was thankful for that. And I was thankful, I know my dad had a stable job that allowed him to work from home, so I didn't have to. The like uncertainty I felt about my future was, you know, quite a bit less than the uncertainty some other people felt about theirs. And so another way I like distracted myself from, you know, being sad about everything was just trying to be thankful that, like, instead of having my entire life like ripped away from me, I just found myself with like a lot of extra time, and that in turn made me feel like it would be like almost a waste and a disservice to, you know, not do anything with it. You know, I was lucky enough to be able to like exploit all this extra time, and it would be a little bit of an insult to people who are actually struggling to just like sit around and complain nonstop. So I really tried to just be productive and make the best of it, and hopefully come out of quarantine, you know, like feeling proud that I capitalized, and like feeling proud of myself, you know.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, because that understanding of, okay, I have some privilege here, you know, and the privilege that I have, I'm not going to take for granted. I'm going to be grateful for it. And I'm going to leverage that to help get me to a place where I can, sustain myself, but also build something, create something that's going to help other people, I think is really crucial. And I appreciate you for sharing those thoughts with us and recommendations. So as I'm thinking more about the product that you built and those that may be listening, can you walk us through, if you have a podcast, how would they go about utilizing that product?
Yeah. So if you have a podcast, I'm gonna start with the assumption that you have like video file or audio or video files somewhere, be it on your phone or your computer.
Mhm.
So if you have these files, you can. So the nice thing is WordBose.com is like a web platform, so it doesn't really matter what device or what operating system you're on. It works on desktops, it works on phones, on tablets, anything. So you just head over to WordBose.com, and there's a really, really big button on the front page that says upload file. And so you can use it as, convenience is really the primary value here. So you can use it as a guest, no need to make an account or anything, if your file is under 15 minutes. So you can just click upload file, upload it, and then you'll like enter the name of your transcript, I think, and go enter the email, and it'll upload the file, and you just click submit, and it'll be like, great, thanks. And sometime later, you'll get an email back with the transcript. And again, another great thing about WordBose is that like guest account under 15-minute sort of range is completely free, and you can do it as many times as you want.
Wow.
That is, of course, given that your file is under 15 minutes. I'll tell you a secret. You can split up your file to all be under 15 minutes and keep using it. But if you don't want your inbox flooded with a ton of emails,
Right.
4 emails per podcast, if you have an hour-long podcast, that's the situation in which you would want to make an account to keep everything nice and organized. So you would click the login or sign in buttons at the top of the page in the nav bar, and there are some other places along the website that you can find them. I tried to make them pretty obvious, but you can click login or sign up, and it'll take you to the actual web app. Because where you go when you go to wordbose.com is like a landing page, it's got the big splash screen and explains all the features. But if you log in and sign up, then you need to it needs to interface, with the database to save everything. So that gets you to the actual web app. You can tell because it has a little bit of a different look and feel, but it feels more like an app, essentially. So sign in. If you sign up, you just enter your email, password, and then it'll send you a confirmation code that you can enter, and then you'll be given with the dashboard. And it's like a nicely organized thing. There's just a button that says new, and you can do that, and it'll bring up a dialog box, and this is where you can enter the name of your transcript, you can upload your file, and you can set some other options like number of speakers if you want it to like identify individual people. And then, so yeah, just choose file, and it'll tell you the duration, and if it's over 15 minutes, it'll tell you the price, which is calculated. If it's over 15 minutes, it's 10 cents per minute with a minimum of 50 cents. So like 15 minutes, 1 second would be 15 minutes and 1 second would be 50 cents. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it works. And then after that, it is 10 cents per minute, which I challenge anyone to find a service cheaper than that. So 10 cents per minute, it'll tell you the price ahead of time. So if you don't want to pay, you can just cancel it. But you can go through with it. It'll upload your file. It'll bring you to the payment screen where you can just enter your credit card info, nice and simple, and then just click submit. And it'll bring you back to the dashboard. You'll see a little box where it says like your transcript data is currently being processed, and you'll get an email when it's done with the data and a link you can click to go see it, or you can just refresh the page and your transcript data will be there. And the great thing about the web app is now, you don't have to go looking through your email for the actual transcript text. You can go click view on the little square that shows up in the dashboard, and you can see the transcript nice and laid out. You can edit the labels of speakers because it'll start out with like speaker 0, speaker 1. And so you can like edit them to have actual names. You can edit the text if you want because AI isn't 100% accurate. So you can like read through it if you want, find incorrect errors, or just like take an entire section out if you want. And You can use Control F in the browser to search for what you're looking for, and you can download it as a text file. Other formats coming soon, but you can download it as a text file. And then, for example, if you're a podcaster, a great way to increase your outreach, better SEO, is post text transcripts of your podcast. And that makes it really easy. Just download, copy, and paste it onto your website, and it's done.
You know, first of all, thank you so much for walking us through that process, because again, I think most people are like, you know, which way should I go? What would be best? And I think you did a really great job of breaking down what would fit a person's budget, and then also their need, you know, what it is that the level of their podcast would be at. So I appreciate that. So once someone is on the platform, they can use this and can get the transcripts and disperse them however they should. You can print it, you can just use it digitally. And one of the points that you made about sharing it digitally, I think is really important, because as we're moving into 2021, one of the ways that a lot of podcast experts are monetizing is in multiple ways. So not just with video, not just with audio, but also in written form as well, because you can use that written transcript as a way of publishing articles on different platforms, which would then bring more attention to your podcast, whether it's blogs or other platforms that are out there that you can submit your writings to. So I think, Josh, that this is something that could be beneficial across the board. And I definitely am looking at it for the Cafecito as it's growing. I mean, I'm doing so many things, so I'm just like, let me get this under control first, and then, you know, I think I definitely will be moving to transcripts with the Cafecito soon. So I'm excited to use your platform for that. So as we are, you know, wrapping it up, what would you say is the call to action for anyone who may be listening to you today? And I mean, I feel like you've given so many great tips and call to actions already, but is there anything else that you would share with folks who are listening to you today? Any words that you would want to leave them with?
You know, it's hard to come up, but I'm thinking just like, don't be afraid. You know, the great thing about one of the reasons I love technology so much is that it's democratized so many things. Like, technology is one of the most egalitarian industries. You know, you don't even need a college degree to get hired at Google. It makes it easier, obviously, but if you're really, really good at programming, which there's tons of resources online, you can get hired. Like, I'm completely self-taught, just like off the internet, off of reading documentation and everything. So, and one of the things about that is it allows you to just invest in yourself. You know, you don't have to be afraid of putting yourself out there, because technology is something that's just, since it's like a newer kind of, in some ways it's a newer field. It's so much less like entrenched with systematic bias. And so I wasn't deterred by the fact that I didn't see a whole lot of, you know, tech entrepreneurs that look like me. Obviously it helps that like I was gonna say grown up, but I've only lived here like a few years, but I live in Seattle. It's a tech hub. I see people with technology, I see technology all the time, but it didn't matter that I didn't necessarily see people that looked like me doing this, because I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I could learn. And so yeah, just don't be afraid to invest in yourself. If you believe you can do it, if you believe you can put in the time and the dedication, then go for it. You know, cloud businesses, web businesses, small initial capital, so your life won't be ruined if you fail. So just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and learn these things, and don't be afraid to fail, because if you're afraid to fail, you'll never get out there, and you'll never know if it would have worked in the first place.
Great advice from an incredible human being who is taking his own advice and putting it to work. Josh, thank you so much for taking out the time to talk with us today and share the work that you're doing in this area, and let the people know where they can find you or find out more about the work that you're doing.
So the website is at wordbose.com, WORDBOSE.com. We have a Twitter. You can find WordBose on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Joshua Delgadillo. And from there, I think you should be able to access all the other socials we might have and socials we come out with in the future. And yeah, all the updates will be reflected on wordbose.com or LinkedIn, so that's the best place to keep up with us.
Perfect. So we'll put all those links below. And again, if you're looking to invest in the work that Josh is doing, definitely reach out. And if you are looking to start your own business and you want to learn more and you're just trying to figure out where to start, and Josh has spoken to you today, definitely reach out. You can reach out to Josh or you can reach out to us and we can connect you with Josh. But either way, thank you all so much for taking out time to another episode of the Cafecito. Remember, you too are everyday people doing extraordinary things. We've proven that time and time again with each episode, and we're going to keep doing it. We're going to ensure that our narratives are out there, told by us, by us. Josh, again, thank you so much for talking with us today and sharing your wisdom. And we look to seeing more that's coming out from you, because I know this is not the only company you're going to start. So there'll be so many more. So all right. Thank you again. Stay safe. And thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.